All right, everybody, welcome back to Trending Tidbits, where we take one fascinating topic and do a total deep dive.
That's right. And today we're looking at
We're looking at something that caught my eye as I was going through the news this week,
yeah,
a proposed bill called the Value Over Cost Act of 2024.
value over cost.
Now it's making its way through the U.S. House of Representatives right now.
Interesting.
And just that title alone,
Yeah,
it piqued my interest.
I can see why.
Because what does it actually mean for the government to shift focus from just the cheapest option to the quote-unquote best value?
Well, I think that's a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
And to really unpack that, I think we need to look at what the bill actually proposes.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. What's actually in this bill?
Well, essentially, it seeks to amend certain sections of Title 41 and Title 10 of the United States Code, which might sound a little dry.
Yeah.
But essentially, these sections govern the rules around government contracts. So, imagine you're buying a fleet of vehicles for a government agency.
Right.
These sections of the code would dictate how that purchase happens.
I see. So this bill wants to tweak some of those rules.
Exactly. And specifically, it targets the multiple award schedule, or as it's more commonly known, the MAS program.
Okay, now I've heard of the MAS program. It's basically like a giant online marketplace
That's a great way to put it.
where government agencies can buy all sorts of things,
Yeah,
from, office supplies all the way up to, complex technology.
you got it. It's a way to streamline the process, make it easier for agencies to find and buy what they need.
Okay, so I'm with you so far.
Now, this is where the Value Over Cost Act comes in.
Okay.
It wants to give the Administrator of General Services, the person who oversees the MAS program,
Uh-huh.
more flexibility to prioritize best value, even if it means not always choosing the lowest bidder.
Hold on. That's a pretty big shift.
It is.
Because if we're no longer just looking at the cheapest option, then how do we define best value?
Right, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, and does the bill actually try to define that?
It does point to some factors.
Okay, like what?
So things like a company's track record, the quality of their products or services, their commitment to sustainability,
Oh, interesting.
potentially even their labor practices. It really aims to take a more holistic view.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this correctly.
Sure.
Hypothetically, a company could win a government contract, even if they aren't the cheapest.
Exactly.
If they have, a really strong track record for delivering high-quality stuff, or maybe they're really committed to sustainability or ethical labor practices.
That's the idea. It's not just about the bottom line anymore.
Wow, that's a pretty big change.
It is.
And I can already see how this could be both good and bad.
Absolutely.
I mean, it makes sense to consider all those other factors,
Mhm.
but it also seems like it could get really complicated.
You're right, and I think this is where the question of government efficiency comes in.
Okay, because that's something that, I know you think a lot about.
It's a big one, and I think this bill really challenges us to think about what efficiency truly means.
Okay, I'm listening.
Is it simply about spending the least amount of money up front? Or is it about making smarter investments that might cost a bit more initially, but ultimately deliver more value in the long run?
I see what you're saying.
You think about things like high-quality products that last longer,
You're right.
sustainable practices that could reduce costs down the road,
Yeah.
even ethical labor practices. Those things might not be the cheapest option in the short term,
Uh-huh.
but they can contribute to a different kind of efficiency, a more long-term, sustainable kind of efficiency.
So are you saying this bill could actually lead to a more efficient government, even if it means spending a bit more upfront sometimes?
That's certainly a possibility, and it's something that lawmakers are going to have to weigh very carefully.
I bet, because I can also see some people being really concerned about this whole best value approach.
Oh, man.
They might worry that it's too subjective, or that it could open the door for, bias or favoritism in how contracts are awarded.
Oh, absolutely. Those are legitimate concerns, and I think transparency and clear guidelines are going to be absolutely essential.
Yeah, we don't want best value to just become, some meaningless buzzword.
Exactly. We need accountability.
This whole conversation makes me think about, figures like Elon Musk, who are always talking about government efficiency.
Interesting comparison.
Because Musk, he's famous for being laser focused on streamlining things and cutting costs.
He is.
So I wonder how he would view this bill.
Well, Musk also talks a lot about innovation, and he's not afraid to invest heavily in new technologies, even if they're expensive up front.
That's true.
So it's not always about immediate savings for him.
Yeah,
And I think in a way, this bill could actually align with some of his thinking by encouraging the government to adopt innovative and sustainable solutions, even if they cost a bit more upfront.
that's a really interesting point.
It's all about thinking long term.
It really is. Well, as always, this has been a thought-provoking deep dive,
It has.
and it leaves us with a lot to consider.
Definitely.
So, as you're going about your day, think about what best value really means to you.
It's quite.
Would you be willing to maybe see the government spend a little bit more on things up front if it meant investing in quality, sustainability, ethical practices, all those things,
Right.
and ultimately a more efficient government in the long run?
It's a question worth asking.
Thanks for joining us today,
My pleasure.
and we'll see you next time for another Trading Tidbits.
See you then, or